Everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. This one would be, if you're counting, number 166 since the beginning of the pandemic, and it's for the week of August 19th. We are recording it both on the 16th and 17th of August. We are here in the heart of Rogers Park in Chicago's 49th Ward, the Fighting 49th. And today I'm going to have a couple of real good friends of the show, Mike Klonsky, talking a little politics, Gordon Thomson, great track coach, talking sports, and a new friend, Liz Rathburn, who is the president of the new Students for Democratic Society chapter at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And we'll hear a little bit about the Tampa 5 down there in Florida, that regressive state these days, and attempts to keep a little democracy in play there. So wherever you are, wherever you're going, we're really glad that you've tuned in. This is a big weekend in Rogers Park. It's the 22nd annual Glenwood Avenue Arts Fest. And, it started back in the days when we were still at the Heartland Cafe where we do our show. And we usually brought in Al Goldberg, who is one of the co-founders of the event. And he and a lot of other people have continued to make this thing possible. Jim Zindersky comes to mind, and there are many others. There's a really good lineup going to happen this week. And there are two stages. Friday is Ross Kwame, Roots Vibration Urban Rhythm Band, Luna Blues Machine, Linda Hoffman, Lucy Smith Quartet. She's been a guest on the show. Saturday, you got Flats and Sharp, all ages. You got Nicholas Barron, the Heebie-Jeebies, the amazing Heebie-Jeebies, Radio Free Honduras. And then on Sunday, there's a lot of them, but it culminates with the band Lake and the band Funkadaisy. And some of you may know that the band Lake would be my youngest kid, Gideon Lake, Jack Henry James, used to be in the Twin Peaks. He's got a new outfit, and I'm looking forward to checking them out at Sunday after I close up my front porch gallery, which will be open Saturday and Sunday, 1 block west of the tracks. A couple other things are going on Sunday you may want to pay attention to if you're listening to this show on Saturday morning or viewing it earlier than Monday. We've got over at the Pink Building in the 5555 North Sheridan, folks from the Hot House are putting on a Mojitos con Maracas, and that's going to be out in the back in the at the Edgewater Beach Apartments. And also Raul Nino, a poet, and he and many others are going to be at the Poetry Slam at the Green Mill on Broadway Lawrence Sunday afternoon. Some big things happening this week. Take note. Trump has been indicted again, this time in Georgia, in a state court, not a federal court. That could make more trouble for him. The stuff is really blatant. It's deep. And obviously, we're hearing a lot about deniers who don't, they're supporting Trump. But I think you're going to see some real shifts in the way people look at this. It's getting a little bit too hard to sweep under the rug. One of the great things that I heard about the indictment in Georgia is that Trump will probably be required to get a mugshot. That'll be great. And I know that people will be tearing them off the walls at the post office to save them for posterity. Okay. Let's give a real shout out to the Nuclear Energy Information Service, to Dave Kraft and a lot of other people. One of their board members, Jan Boudard, has been sending me information. And many of you know that back in the day, Illinois banned all nuclear plants. There's been an attempt to there's been a moratorium on new construction of nuclear power plants, both for big ones and these so-called new little ones. Senate Bill 76 got vetoed by Governor Pritzker. And we really, again, are very impressed with Pritzker. This is good. So we're not going to have any nuclear power plants getting built here in Illinois. And as Jim Boudard said, looks like we can chalk one up with a wide white paintbrush. Jan also turned me on to the Veterans for Peace Golden Rule sailboat, which is sailing around the Great Lakes to sites where there are lots of nuclear plants, and they are going to come to Chicago between September 11th and 14th, and hopefully we'll get some of them on the show. On the sports front, the Cubs and the Sox played twice this week, and they split it. Sox were dominant until the last inning of the second game. We're going to hear a little bit more on sports when our pal Gordon Thomson comes on, talking about the Women's World Cup and more. I'm going to just remind you that we are always available at youtube.com/Heartland Media or Spotify and Google Podcasts. You can get the show anytime. And last week we had Brian Meir talking about lessons that the new mayor, Brandon Johnson, can learn from Harold and Brian's dad, Rob, who worked for Harold. Heard a lot about Lula in Brazil and the rainforest. And Russell Bradburn, noted author of All the Dreams We Dreamed about basketball and murder on the West Side. He's over in Ireland still. He was. And he came home, and we had a little chat with him about his new book and other books. And he's always an interesting literary, motivational, encouraging kind of a fellow. So with that said, we're going to head off, hear a little bit of music, and then we'll come back with our first guest. Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of August 19th. And it's always good for me to see my pal and friend of the Live from the Heartland show, Gordon Thomson, who's trying on some kind of strange military hiking cap, camouflage. A militaristic kind of guy. Anyhow, this is going to be our monthly sports report from Gordon, and he's laughing away over there in Delaware. It's a good thing we got the Zoom. We got you, Gordon. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Michael. Yo, Chicago. Hey, this is not a military hat. It's a Gators hat, but it just has a camo background in it. So
I think they got to put out a new Gator hat where they have like Ron DeSantis in the jaws of the Gator.
Screw him. Like that. He's not a true representative of that state. He's a minor character. So
let's hope he gets more minor. But we're going to talk a little sports, and one of the things that and it's still going on, but the U.S. is out, is FIFA and the Women's World Cup. What do you got?
Oh, my God. What a phenomenal World Cup. I mean, I really got into a series of games of just watching the entire game, which for me is highly unusual from start to finish. There are some just fantastic women athletes there that are just really rocking around. Personally, I was behind, well, first off, 32 countries. The best 32 get invited to this FIFA World Cup Federation International Football Association. So yeah, that's the governing body of of soccer, what the rest of the world knows as football. And it is the world's most popular sport, no doubt. It's played every continent, every country of the world, either as a major sport or as a minor. And here in America, it's getting more and more popular, and it'll never overtake NFL, but who knows? As we get more and more immigrants in this country, anything can happen. Zambia, who I was for, because lately there's been a lot of information coming out about that country there's been a mass exodus of the intelligentsia of Zambia leaving the country because the economy has collapsed. There's inflation of 400%. A black market of trading Zambia dollars for U.S. dollars that is just out of control. So the educated are moving, and it's a highly educated country. A lot of great doctors, lawyers, businesswomen, and people. They're leaving. So I was secretly behind the women's Zambian teams, like, come on, let's go. The country needs you. And something like that could fire up an entire country. So they were horrible. They did not do well. They unfortunately, they were in over their head, much like the USA team, in over their head. Big mistake on the USA team is to have some of the old geezers present. People that the oldsters are, time has passed them by. And Rapinoe is one of them. And the youngsters of that American squad were the life and were the scoring opportunities and really were the dynamic part of that team. So I'm all about the youth movement on the women USA women's soccer. But what we got coming up is a final that is going to be really a great final, and it's Spain versus England. And when I was watching an earlier England game, I was really surprised by the behavior of one woman that stomped on another woman, physically stomped on her. And she received a 2-game suspension for that. But in the moment, I'm like, holy mackerel. Men do not have a monopoly of poor behavior in this world. Women can do it too. And it's just not seen all that often because we think of women as being more graceful, more poised, more balanced, and really just be more behaviorally okay. But here was a class situation where a woman at the top of
Next
the
thing
world.
we'll be reporting on hazing in the women's locker rooms.
Well, that hazing is just a baloney. And Fitzgerald, what a shame. He knew it. He blew it, and he should have stamped it out like I did it to Paul when you first get it going. So not a good deal. So
let me ask you one more thing, Gordon Thomson, about the soccer. What about the Spanish team?
Oh, the Spanish team is loaded. They're the most skilled team on the planet, skilled country as far as soccer skills. These women are just phenomenal passers, great in being able to see the entire field and put it in the open space. There's one woman who's got a track and field background. She was on the Spanish team, a 400-meter hurdler, and was amongst her country's best at under 20 level. Hey, if they say in track and field, if you're in 400 hurdle shape, you're in the best shape there is, because that is the toughest event, or everybody thinks they got the toughest. But let me tell you, 400 hurdles, it's a sprint. And you are going at it as a sprint. But guess what? Your body fuels run out at about 300 meters. So you got to finish that race of last 100 meters with basically running on gas. Add on top of that 400 distance with going over 3-foot high barriers, or almost 3 feet high, 10 of them over the span of 400 meters. If you can negotiate that event and you're in great shape for that, you're in the best shape of anyone in that. So, hey, she was a 400 hurdler in her day. Great chance for Spain to light it up. Yeah.
And let's do a little more track and field, because that's your area of expertise. You're a hot shot coach over the years, cross country, track and field. And I know the world championships are coming up, and it's not a sport that everyone in the States is following. But I know you and I will be watching it if we got the TV access.
Yeah, that it'll probably be mostly streamed off of NBC, Peacock, but we'll get whatever we can live, and we'll watch it. And it's starting today, Saturday, the 19th of August, and in Budapest, Hungary. And it's going to be a phenomenal World Championships. Who's going on there? Who are going to light up after? Sha'Carri Richardson, who we've talked about before. She was the one who was busted for the cannabis at Eugene and was not able to represent the United States in the Olympic Games. So here she's got a chance to win the 100 meters. She's right now the second fastest in the world. A Jamaican has got it, but Sha'Carri has got some special mojo, as you know. She's got a little bit of action. So we're going to root for her. On the other side, on the men's side, in the 100 and the 200, is a guy, Noah Lyles, who's got a great personality, very flamboyant. His main event is the 200 meters, and he's the fastest in the world. Can he break Michael Johnson's world record, or Usain Bolt's? Probably not, but he can double. He's got a chance to go in the 100 and the 200, maybe to win them both. That would be a real rarity and a great sprint opportunity. Also, the highlights is this hot shot 1,500 meter and 5,000 meter gentleman who's going to try and double. And we normally would think that the Kenyans and the Ethiopians are the best in the world at that event. Here's a white guy from Norway who's going to try to win them both. He's got, and his name is Jacob Ingebrigtsen. And Jacob has got the world by the tail right now. He's got a lot of personality. He's got he's out there, and he's going to try to win a very difficult double of 1,500 meters, which is middle distance.
That's
and then
like almost a mile, right?
yeah, it's the metric mile, and 5,000 meters, which is a true distance race. So he'll be up against a lot of great foes, and he'll have to earn it if he's going to accomplish that double. It's never been done before, 1,500 and 5,000. Who else do we got that's cooking in there? Well, is one event that's probably got the best matchup, and that's the men's 400-meter hurdle race. Boy, I love that event because, like you say, if you're in 400-meter hurdle shape, you're in the best shape there is. And that's Karsten Warholm of also Norway versus an American, Benjamin. And both of these guys are unbelievable technicians. 400 hurdles, doing everything right, getting the even steps all the way through, 13 steps getting the same lead legs so that they're most efficient. And we'll see who can really nail it. It's going to be really a mano-a-mano fight. This will be exciting. What do we got on the Bears and Cubs and baseball, Michael?
Well, I already talked at the outset of the show. I talked about the Sox and the Cubs played each other, and they split, even though the Sox team dominant until the last inning. The Bears, I don't know. Arlington Heights is just probably too far for me to go to watch a game. I'll stick with the TV, but I'm still hoping that the Bears make some kind of deal to either keep Soldier Field or to build something down in the old steel mill territory. We'll keep you posted on that. But what else do you got? The Red Stars here in Chicago, one of the who owns the Cubs, whatever that name of that family is. Ricketts. I think one of the Ricketts, one of the daughters is buying into the Red Stars, which I think is soccer, right?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the Orioles and the Tampa Rays, Manta Rays, or the
Tampa Bay Rays
versus big money. Orioles have doing really great this summer. I mean, they've been a hapless team in a recent history of really just getting beat up and not having a really good. Their farm system's fantastic, and as a result, right now they are kicking major booty in the American League East, and they're embarrassing the Yankees, who's got a phenomenal budget and like the best of all-star lineup. Unfortunately, a great manager, Aaron Boone, is going to lose his job at the end of the season. I like him as a manager. He's like I love it when he gets thrown out of a game and ejected, because it's pretty funny on the histrionics that he's laid out ahead of time to get thrown out. But you don't need big money to win in baseball. You need a good farm team, youngsters. Once again, the youth movement. Here we are, two guys with old gray hair, and mainly me. You don't have.
I'm wondering if Roland Heeman, who used to be the GM at the White Sox and went to Baltimore, what role he might have played in the farm system. That's just a question.
Yeah, probably quite a bit.
I like Roland Heeman. I'm a White Sox fan, so I kind of like players who once played with us and go elsewhere, or managers, etc.
Is Steve
Gordon? Let me ask.
Steve Stone still doing the?
Steve Stone and Jason Benetti are the White Sox announcers. I like them both.
Steve Stone is the best in the business.
Steve Stone, I met him in the weight room at the YMCA, Lincoln Belmont Y, way back. Anyhow, we only got a couple minutes left. I know you followed the Tour de France, and there was a little bit of an upset, I think. What happened?
Well, last year's champion won again, but he wasn't expected to, and that's Jonas Vingegaard from Denmark. But the world's best rider from Slovenia, Tadej Pogačar, he didn't win. He got second, and mainly because just one bad day at a 21 days on the bike, 4 hours every day on the bike, pedaling around France. One bad day cost him the win. And it just is an incredible marathon. Every day is a marathon race, 21 of them, bouncing around the country. Very exciting race. What's coming up and what was just happening was the World Bike Championships, and they just had a phenomenal championships. And hey, man, the world keeps going around.
All right. You got anything else you want to throw in here? It's always good getting the sports report from you because I don't get the daily paper and go to the back pages. And we might even put you at the front of this show rather than putting you at the end where the sports section usually goes.
Yeah, well, I'm happy. Put me where the weather report used to be, whatever. No, I don't have anything. I just missing Chicago, missing hanging out with you and all the loyal people, DePaul people, and
well, we always like it when you come to town, and some people know that you and I have been riding partners, going traveling around the Midwest, the South, etc. You drive, I get to take pictures out the window now that I promote myself as a photographer, and it's always good to see you, Gordon. And I really thank you for coming on. I know you were out in the woods when I talked to you earlier. You walk in the woods every day, and do you ever get lost?
Never get lost. No, even if I have never been on paths before, you get a basic sense of direction. You use your senses. What the sun is up in the air, where you're at. You can't get lost. And many people do get lost, but not me.
Well, you keep doing good in the world. I know you're in a blue state. I hope you can spread it to Florida whenever you visit there. You're a hell of a guy, and I'll talk to you soon.
Catch you later, Chicago. See you.
Everybody else, stay tuned here on the left end of your dial, WLUW 88.7, WLUW.org, and we're on there a lot, and we'll be right back with the rest of this week's Live from the Heartland. I'm Michael James here with Live from the Heartland for the week of August 19th, and just so you know, we are recording this on the Wednesday the 16th, and I'm really glad to bring on a member of the new SDS, Liz Rathburn, who is a member of SDS over at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And I'm proud to say that I was a member of the National Interim Committee of the original Students for Democratic Society. And it really makes my heart jump around that we have young people now adopting that name and carrying on the struggle for a better America, a better world. So how are you doing today, Liz?
Doing fantastic. Feels good to be in the struggle.
Right on. Well, the way this came about with me inviting you was a friend of both of ours, Joe Osbaker. He sent out a thing about the Tampa Five, and there was a demonstration downtown here in Chicago in support of the Tampa Five, which it turns out are 5 students at the University of South Florida who attempted to talk to the president of the university there about the Governor DeSantis's attempt to basically ban diversity studies on campuses, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives all over Florida. This guy is out of control, and some people asked some questions about it. How about you fill us in a little bit on the Tampa Five, what the issues are, what's going on, and then we'll talk about SDS.
When it comes to the Tampa Five, this all got started back in March when some students at the University of South Florida were just peacefully demonstrating, doing the sort of thing that we do almost every day with SDS. They decided when, Florida's governor, that fascist Ron DeSantis, was, trying to ban DEI offices, that they wanted their university to take a stand. And in response, the university started essentially sending in the police to beat on protesters. They then arrested 4 of them initially, then a 5th one about 2 weeks later. Those are Chris Lee Carpio, Gia Devia, Lauren Pinero, and Laura Rodriguez, as well as Jeannie Kay, who prefers to not be identified more publicly. But yeah, basically those protesters are now facing up to 10 years in prison for literally just peacefully protesting. There is no real evidence that they've done anything. Even when they were being arrested, it took them 3 hours to get their story straight, the police to get their story straight and take them over to the police station to be booked. they are very clearly trying to rig this. There have been several court dates so far. This most recent demonstration was over their second court date, where the process of discovery was started, and then also now we are kind of in the sort of countdown to their actual trial, which is going to be in December. These activists have been, on the day itself, brutalized, groped, beaten, and just generally abused. And after that, they were threatened with expulsion. One of them was the faculty advisor to new SDS at FSU, and she has now been fired. Her union, AFSCME, has, denounced this because it's completely not within their contract. It is a complete violation of her rights as a working person. And unions across the country have also joined with them in condemning that. But yeah, essentially, this is an attack on the right to protest, an attack on diversity in education, and national SDS in dozens of cities, every time the national call gets put out, has been mobilizing.
I read an article in Axios about this, and one of the things that they brought up was that the lawyer for these five, the Tampa Five, named Michelle Lambo, has another case, and where basically the person got off, but she said that the police behavior mirrored the earlier case. And apparently the videos show one thing, and the police and their attempts to alter the situation have made other claims and other reports.
That's just right. And now they're trying to hide those videos. They're suddenly claiming that very important camera angles, those cameras just mysteriously weren't working that day, which I'm sure that's completely above board. Yeah.
How big an issue is this on the campus, and how, it's a big university, and I don't know how big the chapter is and how much impact they've had, but do you have any sense about support on the campus, other protests going on around in Florida around this?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There have been statewide mobilizations around this. Groups in I think, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, and plenty of other areas across the country have all been, mobilizing around this. We've now made, at least on the campuses where we're active, Tampa Five, almost a household name because, we believe that the only way we can beat this political repression is to mobilize masses of people out and get them in the street and keep them there until the charges are dropped. We don't want this to go to trial because we don't think they're going to get a fair trial. They're completely innocent. They've not done anything wrong, but we want the charges dropped. And, we've managed to mobilize. Here in Chicago, we got, I think, 70, 80 people out. Our first rally for the Tampa Five. Nobody knew what the Tampa Five was before that. People are ready to fight back against this. They're ready to fight back against DeSantis now that he's taken his agenda nationwide. Yeah.
Well, he's something else. I tell you, he just, I don't know how he thinks he's going to would ever win. I think that what someone mentioned the other day, which is probably on, right on, is that he is not really so much thinking he's going to get a nomination for this next presidential election, but the one after that. And I think I've said on this show many times that this guy is more dangerous than Trump. Liz, how about filling us in on SDS and what it's doing? I don't know a lot about the new SDS. I always love seeing the letters and knowing that there are people out there who are carrying on student protest. And obviously these people will be carrying on fights for justice and peace and harmony, et cetera, in many years to come. So give us a little wrap on the current new SDS.
Yeah, for sure. New SDS was founded back in 2006 by some old SDSers, but mostly student anti-war activists who were ready to fight around Iraq and wanted to revive, one of the most successful mass anti-war movements, in living memory. And so they went with SDS as a name. Now in SDS, we have, I think, getting close to 40 chapters around the country at different universities. high schools as well, actually. Recently, our big campaign nationwide has been around defending diversity in education. During the 1960s and 70s, we had a real unprecedented wave of, student uprisings that won, real gains in terms of ethnic studies, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, affirmative action stuff that has been slowly chipped away. And now those attacks are just intensifying. In Florida and Texas, they have started to ban ethnic studies and DEI programs. I think in other states too, they just can't think of them off the top of my head. But yeah, so we've mobilized nationwide around that. Here in Chicago, our big focus recently was kicking our CIA chapter off campus. They had a special agreement with UIC. It was a whole signature school thing. Basically, they wanted to recruit students of a more diverse background to basically destroy more diverse countries. So that's fun. But yeah, essentially, we won that. We kicked them off. And so now we're moving on to black enrollment, which UIC's black enrollment is currently sitting around 7%, uh, which in a city that is, almost a third black is just frankly shocking and absurd. The university can do better. It should do better. Instead, it spends millions of dollars on privatization. It continually cracks down on its workforce, and it, is basically doing everything it can to ignore the mass outcry of students who, want to see UIC do better. Our most recent, victory around the country has been around issues like this. So we've been pressuring universities in Texas, in Denver, in I think Seattle now too. Yeah, all around the country to fight around these issues because we think students are ready to protect the gains that we won in the 1960s.
Uh, Let me ask you about your chapter at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Are there other progressive or radical groups in the Black student community or the Latino student community, Asian, LGBT that are progressive? Are there other groups on campus? And do you guys work together at all?
Absolutely, yeah. No, we probably have the closest working relationship with the Filipino Patriotic Student Group, Anak Bayan, but we also work with our Black Student Union, our chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine, and we've done some outreach also to some of the other ethnic groups on campus, though a lot of them are relatively more focused on cultural stuff at the moment, but all progressive political groups, yeah. But in terms of just a broad multi-issue group, SJS is kind of the only game in town on campus. But we always are happy to work with anyone who can. We like I don't know if you know Frank Chapman, but I like his saying, "There's no such thing as a united front of ideas." You can't unite with people who only agree with you. You got to unite with people who you can get together and actually, make change with.
Yeah, we had Frank on the show a while back. He's done a lot of great work. University of Illinois, Chicago, I remember back in the early days when it was over at Navy Pier. It took over a lot of land. There were a lot of issues building the university. We are in a blue state, and as much as we are still struggling about certain things, we can be glad about the state we're in. But I'm curious to know the basic tone of the student politics at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Would you and kids in general, are they, and I say kids lovingly, but they're younger than me. And I'm just wondering if, where people are at. Do they tend to talk politics? Do they care about politics? Are there other issues on campus? Or what's your sense of the campus, the student body there?
In terms of USC student body, a big part of it is how incredibly diverse it is. UIC is about, I think less than a third white, and a lot of the campus politics gets tinged because of that with, the specific issues of immigration, race, and especially, things around international issues. So, for instance, there was a lot of discussion when the United States was threatening to intervene in Haiti last year, uh, and we decided to mobilize around that. But in terms of our generation more broadly, I think and I'm not alone in this. You know, people are ready for change. It's like we can see that we are living in an empire in decline, that, things are getting worse for us generation after generation. A lot of us, saw campaigns like Bernie Sanders or were, involved in the George Floyd uprisings in 2020. That's how I really got more directly involved. Um, and saw that, wow, there is a real possibility of change, that, the fact that this, beast that we're inside of right now it isn't just something to cry about and, get high about. It's something to organize around, and
Yeah, well,
people are ready for it.
we're in the guts of the ogre and the belly of the beast.
Damn right.
And you know, it's really important. I don't know where you guys are at on voting, but I moved from movement politics to having to deal with electoral politics, and I know that the youth vote has always been crucial, and it's particularly crucial today. And if you looked at the figures around Brandon Johnson and his victory as the mayor in Chicago, he had a lot of young people turn out. It was really the cutting edge deal.
You'll be happy to know SDS was right there, out knocking doors for, I think, a good month before the election, both for district council candidates and for Brandon Johnson himself. Yeah, it was a good time. I remember getting up way too early in the morning, hopping down on a train to go to the South Side to help with the Get Out to Vote campaign with, what do you call it, Carver, the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. People are, wanting to use every tool they got. And so we're going to keep using them. That means the voting box too.
Right on. Liz Rathburn, this is great talking to you. We're going to run out of time, but I would like to ask you a little bit about where you come from and how you got involved. You mentioned the George Floyd demonstrations and the general uprisings and concern around that issue a couple of years back. But I do like stories of how people become part of STS, where they came from and what led them in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was a pretty direct pipeline. My dad was always into, radical politics. He was in the Committee in Solidarity with the People of El Salvador back in the 80s. We had a bunch of stuff around the apartment. If I ever needed a good radical book to read, I knew who to ask. It was my pops. But we started, I really started getting involved in politics during 2020, uh, because I was relatively far on the north side. I would ride my bike down, basically every day, because every day there was a protest. And of course, if you're doing that, odds are you're going to get, uh, pretty beat up by the police at some point. And that happened to me a couple times. And I saw organizers from especially the Chicago Alliance, but also SDS, right there standing shoulder to shoulder with me, organizing alongside me. And I was like, well, shoot, that's the thing to join. If you're blinking tear gas at your eyes and you can only see one thing, that's the one to get with. And so when I went to UIC, I saw we had an SDS chapter. I got involved right from the jump, and haven't looked back. And I've been involved in SDS for about 2 years. Yeah, and now we're hosting our national convention here, which hopefully it's not going to go like the last Chicago convention, but we can only pray.
I got photographed tipping over a paddy wagon, which stuck with me all my life. I got a lot of press on it. And when is your convention going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be October 14th to 15th at the University of Illinois at Chicago. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of great speakers, folks from the union movement, movement for community control of police, and just a lot of great speakers. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Liz, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to get out here to the masses who will be listening and watching?
I guess the only thing is just call if you're a young person who's listening to this to get organized. SDS is always looking for more folks to join up, more campuses to start organizing on. We are happy to get involved with anything you can do. Talk to us, email us, Instagram us, whatever you want to use, and we will help you along the way.
How do people get a hold of you if they wanted to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. For national SDS, it's just national SDS on Instagram or newsds.org. Or for our local organizations, it's SDS at UIC at Instagram. It's also on Twitter as well, I think. But yeah, we're always happy to get messages from folks. Yeah.
Well, a change is going to come, as our early button said in the old days. And we know it's happening. It's always happening, and it's going in a good direction in large part, not everywhere. And we need more people like you. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much for joining us on Live from the Heartland.
Thank you for having me. Right on.
Right on. And everyone else, stay tuned here on the left end of your dial or YouTube, however you're getting the show, Spotify. We got it everywhere. And we'll be right back with our next guest. Stay tuned here on the left end of your dial for more Live from the Heartland. Welcome back to a little bit more of Live from the Heartland for the week of August 19th. And this week, our new mayor, Brandon Johnson, fired Dr. Allison Arwady, who was the commissioner of Chicago Department of Public Health. And it made me think of someone who knows a lot about what's going on in Chicago politics, a longtime friend of this show, the one and only host of Hitting Left on the Lumpen Radio, one of our sister stations. It's the one and only Michael Klonsky. Good morning to you up in Michigan.
Good morning to you, Michael. Yeah, I'm up here in Three Oaks, Michigan, watching my granddaughter ride horses out here at this horse farm I'm at.
That's the one thing in my old age I want to do is be around horses again. I miss them.
This is a great place out here. I forget the name of the place, but we just drove out this morning to try to see her on horseback, and she's having a ball out here.
Well, I really thank you for coming on. We don't have a lot of time, but I thought you could fill us in a little bit on what do you think of the mayor's first 100 days and the new city council?
Well, it's too early to give them a grade or to give the city council a grade because they really haven't had much time to do anything. I'm a fan of Brandon Johnson and voted for him against the evil Mr. Vallis. And Brandon's talking a good game. I like what he's saying about not persecuting young people, but rather providing some meaningful activities for them. And he's going to have to figure out what to do about this crime, the crime issues, because, in a way, I mean, he has some responsibility for attacking the former mayor for not solving the crime problem. But, it became fashionable in big cities everywhere to blame mayors, especially black mayors, and especially black women mayors for not ending crime in their cities. And of course, and gun violence. And of course, a lot of that was out of their control, because so much of it depends on stopping the flow of guns into the cities. And that's something that needs federal assistance and federal support. So to put it all on the cities and on the mayors was a bad move. But now Brandon Johnson's got to live with that. And a lot of other things, too, that they attacked Lightfoot for. Now it's coming back on him, including how the press is treating him. I think the kid gloves are off. And for example, his firing, as you mentioned, of Dr. Arwady, who I'm a big fan of Dr. Arwady. I mean, she was a hero to me. Led us through one of the, worst crisis in memory, health crises with the pandemic, letting her go, and especially letting her go the way that they did, really demeaning her and not giving her any props or credit, or even meeting with her. It was not right what they did. But the main thing that worries me, Michael, is that this way of running the city based on political agreement, like if all Brandon Johnson would say is that he had disagreements with Arwady, political disagreements, but dealing with COVID, it's not a matter of political agreement or not political agreement. It's a matter of scientific understanding of how you deal with polemic pandemics, I should say polemics. Yeah, we want to talk about pandemics, not polemics, when it comes to that. And Arwadi had all this great experience in Botswana and other African countries in dealing with the Ebola crisis. She was a big help there, and to let her go over political differences, or because she was a holdover from the previous administration, is sets a very dangerous precedent for this administration. And you just hope that the people around him are going to be not just picked because they agree with Brandon Johnson or with the CTU leadership politically, but have some competence and some understanding of the crisis ahead.
Mike,
yeah.
Do you think that his main reason for letting her go was that she had wanted to open the schools and the CTU was opposed to that?
Well, I mean, that shouldn't be a factor. I mean, I do think that, but if they had a disagreement over opening the schools or closing the schools, I mean, it turns out, I think that she was right about that. It turned out to be the right thing to do. But whether that was based on what we knew at the time about how to deal with the pandemic. But you can't criticize her intents or her knowledge. The decisions that she made, first of all, it was the mayor who decided that. She gave advice to the mayor. That's what the Department of Health does. And she gave advice based on the CDC's recommendations and upon what we knew at the time. And I'm afraid that the CTU leadership at the time was basing its approach on politics, on anti-Lightfoot policy, whatever. I think if Lightfoot would have said close the schools, they would have said open the schools. And I really sincerely believe that they were out to get Lightfoot from day one. And it's unfortunate. It was unfortunate for them, for the labor movement, and it still is. I think that kind of sectarian, narrow political approach to running a city is not good for the city, and it may be a political victory for Stacey Davis Gates or for the union or but I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in what are we going to do when the next crisis hits, and it will hit the next health crisis.
It'll be interesting to see how he follows up. I don't know if he's made any statements yet about why he fired her and the way.
Yeah, he has. He said I had political disagreements with her.
Yeah,
and that's all he would say. And the other thing
this is rough for him. I mean, a lot of people who like him are a little concerned, and we'll have to see how he comes down on it, what he does. Let me shift because we do have a limited amount of time left.
Sure.
And I'm wondering about, Chicago, you and I have been involved a long time with our criticisms of the police. I always root for the police when they're doing good. I think we need a good, solid police department rooted in its connections to people in the neighborhoods. We have a new superintendent of police, Mr. Snelling or Officer Snelling. What do you got on that?
Well, I don't know much about Snelling. I know that he's an insider, which is interesting because the CPD has been very slow in responding positively to the mandates, set by the federal government, the consent decree, in other words.
Yeah.
And I would think that they would need, that they wouldn't pick somebody on the inside who's been partly responsible for that foot dragging on the consent decree. But I don't know Snelling personally, of course, except he might know me and you because he was the head of the the anti-terrorism department. And I'm not sure that's what we need at the head of the police department right now.
Well, we'll see. He did the progressives. I don't think are going to criticize the mayor, but the more conservative elements on the council were there when he announced the new hiring, and they
like him.
The Friends of the Fraternal Order of the Police, which is led by a pretty right-wing guy, they were supportive of this new appointment too. So I'm waiting to see.
Well, you know what? I wonder what a big difference it makes. Who's the superintendent? Uh, I, 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 I don't know that the last superintendents really had big influence on how the police acted on controlling, police violence or what have you. So I say, we'll let them see how it works out. So I don't particularly have an opinion one way or another on this guy. I'm leery. I'm leery of police superintendents in general, and which I'm sure you are too, given our history. But I just say wait and see. I'm not really that concerned about Snelling versus
Mike
somebody else.
Klonsky, do you got any comments on the governor, Governor Pritzker today? He vetoed the bill that would have allowed to build nuclear power plants again. I tend to like the guy. You got any quick comments?
Yeah, me too. No, he's doing a good job. He gave a hell of a stem winder speech out at the state fair yesterday.
Yeah,
and tore a new rear end in all the Republicans.
He basically said we got to go after the Republicans. We got to really challenge them a lot more. I like that.
I'm glad to hear that, and who knows, he may end up running for president. We don't know, what's going to happen with the health of our current. With the health of our
guy
current
in the
president.
locker room, a guy at the McGaw Y, who I know, he's right on a lot of stuff. He predicted that he would be the candidate. We'll see. Let me ask you finally to share a little information about your show, Hitting Left, on Lumpen Radio, that you do every week, just like we do Live from the Heartland every week. You do that, and our friend Thorne Dreyer does Rag Radio every week. We got a few of these kind of progressive shows around town. Share with our listeners about yours. You got 2 minutes.
Well, quickly, I mean, like, for example, this week, I have some really interesting guests. Pigeon Pagonis, who's an intersex activist. She's going to be our guest. I shouldn't say she, they are going to be our guest.
Yeah, I got to be careful, Mike.
I got to start getting these pronouns right, and I'm going to try my best to do it, Michael. And I apologize for that last slip up. Pigeon is going to be our guest, and we're going to be talking about LGBTQ, trans, and intersex is a unique area there. And so tune in to hear that. And also, Curly Boo Johnson. I don't know if you know who Curly Boo Johnson is, but former Harlem Globetrotters star. He was the great dribbler on the Globetrotters for 18 years, and he's been very active in working with young people, using basketball as a way to get at them and to educate them. So I'm going to be talking to Curly about the Globetrotters, a little bit about basketball and politics. About
Mike, what station are you on? What station are you on, and what time? And is it rebroadcast anyway?
Yeah, WLPN 105.5 FM in Chicago, and streaming live every Friday, 11 to noon Chicago time, on lumpenradio.com. And then you can, if you miss that, you can get it, download the podcasts on libsyn.com or iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from.
Well, it's great having you, Mike. And I want to let you know that you're not the only SDS person on the show. I'm on the show, too. That would be Students for Democratic Society. And another one of our guests, we got a representative, Liz Rathburn, from the new SDS, talking about the Tampa 5 and SDS. And I did say that I'd love to meet with the new SDS people, and you probably would, too. Let's maybe do it together.
Sounds good, Michael. Great talking with you.
All right, and don't get caught under any hoofs from those horses up there. Sometimes they'll step.
I'm gonna try not to step in the horse poop.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this week's Live from the Heartland for the week of August 19th. I want to thank our guests, Liz Rathburn, Gordon Thomson, Mike Klonsky. I want to thank the people who make the show possible, Katie Hogan, Tom Clark, Lynn Orman, and Hal James. I want you to remember that there is a future. There is a future. I got these from the Free Street Theater. And next week, we're going to have John Ballantyne, who is presenting Chicago 1971, the story of the night Steve Goodman introduced Chris Christopherson to John Prine. We also are going to have Mike McGraw, our old pal, reporting from Hawaii. And Carlos Kumpian will join us for a little report on the Carlos Cortez event that was held recently. You got to do good in the world because the world needs all the good that you do. All power to the people. And I'll be on my front porch on Sunday if you want to come on by and say hello.